creation. Flesh, wood, plastic, human beings, trees, sun, moon, nothing. All of this is nothing comparable to the creator. So our creator of our universe, this existence, is unlike anything of this cosmos. So the creator
comes from the creator.
The creator who has characteristics, but is not like this creation. The creator is different from the creation. The manufacturer of this, to give you an example, brother, if you don't mind. Yeah, please. Thank you. This bike, we don't expect this bike to be a maker who is also look like a bike. Do you follow? We don't need to somehow automatically assume the one who made this bike must be like a bike, possessing of metal and plastic and rubber and all this grease and so on and so forth. We don't need to extrapolate that way. So our maker of our universe, the creator of our universe, doesn't have to be like this. In fact, the creator tells us it's not like it. And there is a reason for this. This creation, with all these properties that are within it, is limited, finite and dependent. These are intertwined properties and characteristics of our universe. The creator is not bound by this limitation and weakness and deficiencies. I call that deficiencies. The creator is unlike that, so that's why we say he's absolute in all the characteristics. If the creator has knowledge, his knowledge is all knowledgeable. He knows everything, nothing is hidden. Not a leaf falls, he's aware of it. Not the darkest night and the darkest ant hiding under the darkest rock. The creator is aware of its movements. That is the level of the subtle knowledge that the creator has, as described by our Quran. And it makes sense, because the one who, Quran says, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Would he then not know who created you? He's the most sublime, the subtle, the all-aware. Because the one who made this bike knows about this bike, about plastics and rubber. The one who knows about this universe, he knows all of that. Why would it not be all aware? So our creator has knowledge about all things and everything. That's what the Quran says. So the Quran is something that, I hope at least this is an introduction to you about the Islamic faith, in which our faith is not based on blind faith, but on reasoned analysis and conviction. That Quran says, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Know with certainty that there is no deity or God worthy of worship except our creator, except Allah. We have to have knowledge. So we can't just simply believe, we have to go through this process of elimination and rejection. There is no God worthy of worship. This is not God, you are not God, the tree is not God, this land is not God, nothing is God. The sun, the moon, planets, the black holes, nothing is God. Nothing is our creator. Nothing is the originator of this universe except the one who made it, Allah. That is the negation and affirmation in Islam. When someone becomes a Muslim, this is the process we go through. That we say, La ilaha, no God or no deity worthy of worship, illallah, except Allah. So it's a rational conviction.
Brother, when Brother Mansur suggested that, in the Quran everything is written, so why anybody should read it? Because we all have got intellect, we can, visualize things, we can understand, we can reason out things and all that. It's on the same principles. All have got eyes, and in our eyes we got light, and we can always see. So he said, why do we need an added light? But the thing is that suddenly if there is darkness or at night there is no light, those who have got light in your eyes, you need an added light to be able to see. Similarly, the Quran is, we have got an intellect, but we need an added guidance to be able to comprehend everything which is said. So that is my point.
Thank you. So the Quran is like a manual of our life. It gives us guidance to know, first of all, who we are, where we come from and where we're going, and what's going to happen to us when we go. So, you see, often and not, you will see the liberal, capitalistic society that we're living in today doesn't want us to think about these existential questions. It is trying to say, you can study philosophy if you're interested, but leave that question. Enjoy. Eat this, dine here, wear this, go there, watch that. It's all telling you, Time Out magazine, for example, or something like that, isn't it? It tells you, this is where you should go to enjoy yourself. This is what you should be eating. This is what you should be wearing. All of that. They're telling you to consume. This is called the religion of materialism. They want to preoccupy us with the materialistic life in which you are living your life of hedonism, where you know that you're going to die, but they don't want you to think that that's it. They want you to enjoy every moment of your life as it lasts, and don't worry about death. But they don't want us to tell this one thing, why you're here in the first place. All of that, this beautiful assembly that you are a human being, that you are, everything is assembled in particular order. Your heart is assembled in such a way, differently than from your liver, differently than your kidneys. Because the cells, during the initial development of the embryo, the cells started migrating in groups, and they assembled to group to make this tissue. This programming is there. You didn't design it. Your parents didn't design it. There was no blueprint for your parents. Your mom and dad said, you know what? These cells, we want them to go and recognize each other and settle there and make that tissue called the heart, the organ. None of that. This intelligent, designed exhibition in your body, you must think, if all parts of our body has a set function. Now I want to really think about it. Set function. Are you saying your heart is there to see?
Not my heart. But
okay, kidneys. Is your kidney there to hear?
No.
So
that's not what I'm saying.
So let's think about something. Your kidney there specifically serving a function from the whole body. You haven't designed it, and you haven't set its purpose. Every single organ of your body has been established with a function. Our eyes with vision. So your eyes, what's the function of the eye?
No, not the eye. So there's in biology, there's a thing called vestigial organs.
Like what?
Vestigial.
Then I know. I studied biology too.
Oh, okay.
So what is a vestigial organ?
It's an organ that's not really.
Give me an example.
Hold on, so
The appendix.
I didn't
The appendix, right?
Yeah.
That's what they thought. I'm telling you, the reason people thought this is a vestigial is because they didn't know its function. Now we know the importance of appendix in stress control. Yeah? The list of vestigial organs at one point was very long. But guess what happened to that list? It's gradually and gradually and gradually shrinking. Because the more we understand science, the more we understand the roles of those things which we call vestigial.
Okay, so
appendix.
An example.
Let's talk about the appendix. Appendix, the reason I gave you an example of appendix, this is a real, what's called, an eye-opener for people who think this way. Appendix was glorified example of a vestigial organ until scientists told us otherwise in recent years. They told us, no, the appendix has a function. It has a purpose in our body. But prior to that, because of our ignorance within the scientific community, not lay people, the lay people are ignorant anyway. The scientists, because they didn't know, they hailed and glorified, and then they said, okay, this is a textbook definition, an example of a vestigial organ, only to be humble enough to admit that it is no longer vestigial. So my point is, the scientists at one point, because of the ignorance of its function, they called it vestigial because they didn't know its function. You know junk DNA? Have you heard about junk DNA? A junk DNA, people think junk DNA doesn't have a function. Now we realize, those who are in genetics, junk DNA has functions. It's not junk as in like it doesn't have any purpose. But they called it junk because at that time they had no demonstrable, when I say demonstrable, they couldn't demonstrate what function, sir. But now we know how the function of those DNA parts are. So the list, my friend, go to a list 100 years ago. Now, compare the list 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 25 years ago. What you'll find is an astonishing truth. And that truth is, the list is shrinking. So if the list is shrinking, what is our reasonable assumption that we should say? That it seems like in principle, what we call vestigial, as more and more science develops and progress, we are more likely to know the function of the things that we call vestigial. I'm not saying we'll definitely know, let's use the scientific jargon. We are more likely to know what its function is going to be, because that's what we've been observing throughout our historical exploration of science. As we're living through it, we see that is the case. A good scientist, a good individual with critical thinking will make this approach, saying it is more likely as time approaches, our knowledge expands, we will know the functions of the male nipple, for example, which they are laughing about. Like, what's the function of it? They talk about the coccyx, the human tail that's there, yeah? But as more and more we develop our science, I'm not saying they don't have a function or they have a function, I'm just illustrating with the example they brought about. It is more likely that we know. So when we talk about all of these things, I've lost the point I was going to make about this, how you brought vestigial organs. There is no such thing as is a leftover of an evolutionary byproduct. That's what they thought. Evolution, because it's blind, it just happens, and then it somehow, initially you had fins to swim underwater and gills, and now you don't need to do that. So anything that exhibits is a leftover of that function. We will eventually discover this, what is the case. It's like the example of a penguin. The penguin is used to say the wings of a penguin is useless. But if you really study the aerodynamic nature of a penguin, it's not flight in the water. Flight in the water. Do you see how they fly in the water? Observe next time.
They swim.
No. The wings, the way they use their wings underneath the water, the amount, we're talking about aerodynamics, right?
Yes.
We're talking about the design feature of this, making it thin like that to make it faster. The wing, the way they are proportioned, the way they are there is exactly the you need for it to propel so fast. So it is not a biological remains of a evolutionary process as a leftover. It's a design feature built in already. So I can give you many examples of people talk about it, but enough of the two examples I illustrated. You can go on and go into this debate if you want, from the camp of the evolutionist and the one who opposes evolution, and you will see this debate is going on for months and years. And scientists say, okay, fine, you know what, appendix, okay, we'll take it from the list now. So it's ongoing learning process for each one. And the people who didn't know how to explain, they didn't say, okay, fine, you know what, God made it that way. They will say, fine, we will learn as we learn about our science. Junk DNA, now it's not junk anymore. We need that part of that DNA parts, otherwise this coding was not going to happen. Please go and study about genetics and you will be surprised the amount of information. It's there, assembled together to switch on and off the genes to make your eyes, they are, they make it the tall as you are, they make your, the build that you are. It's all this genetic component will switch on, off, and yet we are supposed to believe that this all happened by just like that. So I want to leave you with this thought. I think we have talked about enough. The only thing that we were discussing about is agency, which is consciousness or not. Okay, so think about this level of complexity and where that letter that I gave you an example of, why you're saying I'm content that this is coming from myself, and you would say this is more likely, this is how my heart will be settled with that, rather than this letter just popped into existence from nothing and then it just got over the millions of years, the ink, the carbon, the ink, whatever it's made of, and the paper they assemble together, and the likelihood is there, that what they're saying, the probability, even though it's minuscule, it's not zero. That's what the scientists are saying, the mathematicians are saying. But in your heart, in your mind, when they are together working in cooperation, you will say, I'm content to subscribe to the view that this is from Mansur I spoke to in Speaker's Corner on that day, rather than that. Likewise, you need to make that kind of subscription to the agency, whether it's conscious or unconscious, about the whole cosmos all around it. That is something that you have to do yourself. The digging, the critical thinking, the information analysis, you have to do yourself. What we were trying to do here as Muslims is awaken the spirit of critical thinking, awaken the spirit of the thinking outside the boundary of the social constraints by our media, telling you watch this movie and go into this matrix and that's it, be happy, and you think that yeah, everything is possible, maybe you don't exist. You'll be surprised how many hyper-skeptic individuals that I speak to in Speaker's Corner who even not sure whether they exist or not. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. Otherwise, is mine and Hashim's channels. If you go and watch some of the videos, there's so many people who speak to. That's what the societal conditioning is. What we are saying is there are forces around here other than our own desires and our own thinking, which wants us to take away from the path of knowing the truth, being subservient to our Creator. And this is the agency of, like we call, the unseen creations of the jinn, and Satan is one of them. And he doesn't want anyone to be successful in this life or the hereafter. He will show you and he will allure you all of these things and try to divert you and try to take your attention away from the reality of the existence, which is forever and forever, and always say, be preoccupied with this life and be happy, because why worry about all of that, because you're okay now. So that's what we are saying, is the Quran reminds us from this intelligence agency we call God the Creator, to awaken ourselves from the shackles and from the bondage of this materialism, of consumerism, of liberal capitalist thinking, and wake our mind and spirit to think critically, openly, and then say, fine, this makes sense to me, my heart and mind, and this is finally in resonance. So why am I not going to be thankful to my God, my Creator who created me? I know this is the case. That decision has to come from you on your own particular decision that you make, without being coerced, without being somehow forced, but something that you take in for your own self, willingly, sincerely, with the truth and love. So I will leave you with that. If you have any questions you can ask, but I would like to give you this Quran as a gift, and read about it. There's various ways of reading it from the beginning to end. The Quran is not like a book which starts in the beginning and it ends and this is the end. You will find it quite different. So you can read it. You can read any chapter on its own. It's called a surah, 114 surahs. You can read. There are thematic unity. Each surah has a unique message. All the surahs you will see either this way, that way. They remind us about our God, our Creator. And there is also thematic, topical way of reading, like from the index, like God. Oh, let me learn about God, His unity and exclusiveness, His sovereignty and dominion. I want to know about His sight and hearing, His provision. I want to know about hellfire. Let me look into this. Okay, Day of Resurrection, 248 means chapter 2, Surah 2, Ayah 48, meaning verse 48.
Mansur.
And then you look into it and say, okay, this is what it says. So this you'll find is something that will help you as an information to as I said, awaken your spirit, and you make the decision. If it's not from God, you don't have to believe in it. If it's from God, ask yourself, why am I not a Muslim?
Whatever you're looking for, you will find it in there, inshallah. Allah always has whatever people are looking for. So sincerely look into it, and you'll find your answers. You know, but you have to ask, look, guide me and find me the true path.
Yeah, read it. Whatever
So we are all in unison in informing you that you need to seek information, expand knowledge and information. Did we ever say you just believe or you're going to go to hell? Did you ever hear from anyone else?
It's not our...
No, but Allah says.
Because you know that we need to make our own informed choices and decisions. And that I'm positive you will do. And Thought Adventure Podcast. So there are 4 friends of ours.
For those who doesn't know.
Sharif, Yusuf Hondas, there is Jake the Muslim metaphysician, and there is brother Abdul Rahman. 4 brothers. It's called Thought Adventure Podcast, and I would recommend it too. Why? Because they deal with these kind of questions, and they've invited Aaron Ra, for example, at one point on their channel, and Aaron Ra left with the understanding that there is a necessary being. That is the transformation that happened. So they're very intelligent, bright, far brighter than my humble self, and they will really argue with you, reason I can discuss with them. So I'll show you which channel that is. Thought. Thank you for recommending that.
You're from Sudan.
So Thought Adventure Podcast. So this brother is brother Abdul Rahman, and you can see there's a few others. So they are mainly concerned or engaging with academic scholarship, because that's where you can have a meaningful exchange with someone who is sincere, someone who is within the field, so you exchange information to the level that is required. Rather than speaking to Tom, Dick and Harry like myself, for example, you won't get that information. I won't be able to tell you about the for example, the philosophical issues on this or the arguments for and against, but they will certainly. So please go and listen to them. And our channel, myself, is Dawah-wise. So if you want to, go and have a look at the other discussions we had with many other free thinkers and humanists, agnostics and atheists, just to awaken the mind so that they can make up their mind. I mean, we don't force anyone to become a Muslim, but it's our hope and our desire and our wish that you become a Muslim, that you save yourself from the punishment. Because God created us for a purpose, to do the will of God, and He promised us that if you do that, then He will give you paradise, which is eternal bliss and joy and happiness and tranquility and contentment. And if you disobey and reject Him because with arrogance and stubbornness, knowing the truth, not like someone didn't know, but knowing the truth and you reject it arrogantly with stubbornness, then He has placed them in a place called hellfire, which will be the final and eternal abode, punishment. So we want no one to go there. We don't want anyone. We don't want you, me, to go into hellfire to be burned and punished and be suffered in the punishment forever and forever. We want good of every human being. All we can do is share the message of Islam to you, and you make your decision, because at the end of the day, you will be responsible for your own actions and your own belief and your own choice. So it was a pleasure speaking to you, Michael. We hope to meet again, perhaps, and one day we meet again. You as a Muslim. You take care. We'll do that. Okay? You take care.
Can you eat the lizard? The lizard. Just to see you.
Just one moment. If I can. Way.
Take your time.
Is there any more?
Mansur.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm fine, alhamdulillah.
Mansur or Hashim?
Where are you? I'm in Mansur.
Mansur.
So you see, look how people are in the camera now. You know? Okay.
How are you going?
Is there any more? Any more anywhere?
Yes.
Any more? Where is it? This is ours? Yeah. Any others?
No, I think.
Thank you.